Good day, everyone. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. And yes, today's video is the weekly recap of all of the top stories throughout the week, all conveniently located in one location. I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for watching. Now, first, as most people know, Kaylee Goncalves, her best friend Madison Mogen, Zaina Kernodle, and her boyfriend Ethan Chapin were slaughtered in the early morning hours of November 13th in their rental home near the University of Idaho campus. Now, the family of one of the four University of Idaho victims killed in the home invasion attack last month is looking to raise reward money for information regarding the case and the investigation as it now hits its fourth week without an arrest or anyone being identified as a possible suspect. To raise the funds, the family is supporting a pair of online fundraisers, a GoFundMe set up by Goncalves' former boss, Jeremiah Shea, and a Give, Send, Go campaign from a family friend named Brooke Miller. Christy Goncalves has stated for the family. Now, the money raised will go directly to getting answers as well as helping to pay for Kaylee's final arrangements and her celebration of life on December 30th. Now, the family had previously held off on announcing any sort of memorial plans, but obviously have changed their mind. When asked about the lack of reward on Saturday, police simply said, "Hey, we have enough tips. We have a steady supply of information in this case. We don't really need any more." Okay, I'm paraphrasing a little bit of the last part of that, but you get the drift. Now, the father of Kaylee Goncalves has stated that the victims, quote, had big gouges that were clearly the work of a sadistic male, and called police cowards for not sharing more information with the public. Stephen Goncalves said he asked the coroner, Kathy Mabott, about how many times the victims were stabbed. She said, quote, "Sir, I don't think stab is the right word. It was like tears, like this was a strong weapon, not like a stab." She apparently said these were big open gouges. She said it was quick. These weren't things where you would be able to call 911. They were going to bleed out slowly, Mr. Goncalves said. His daughter's injuries definitely did not match Mogen's wounds. They may have individually died from the same thing, being stabbed, but there are more details, he stressed. He stated that their injuries are not even close to matching. Now, the knife apparently slashed open Kaylee Goncalves' liver and her lungs, according to her father. And according to the coroner, his daughter and Mogen were ambushed in their sleep, and they were found in the same bed. Goncalves surmised that they died in Mogen's bedroom on the third floor because there are photos of Kaylee's room with no blood on the bed. Now, although the coroner told Goncalves that the victims died quickly and did not suffer, he said that he is not convinced of that. According to Goncalves, Kernodle, who had Defense's wound, and Chapin were found in the second floor of the residence. It apparently was a hell of a battle going on down there, from what the coroner has explained to the family. The coroner told him that the perpetrator was a strong individual, but police have yet to identify the suspect's gender. Mr. Goncalves also said that he got outraged by them not just coming out and saying this was a woman or a man, because they should know by now the amount of strength it took to deliver the injuries. They're just being cowards. There's girls walking around the street right now that deserve to know. They should be on the lookout for a sadistic male. Now, police also said in the statement that they will not comment on or release specific details of the crime. It is what we must do to preserve the integrity of the investigation, said Robbie Johnson, the public information officer of the Moscow Police Department. We want more than an arrest. We want justice. It takes time to do things correctly. Johnson said that the police are encouraging good safety practices in general and are not focusing on a specific threat to the community. Like I said, police have yet to name a suspect or a person of interest publicly, but no offer of a reward has some people speculating that there is a potential suspect. But as we have seen thus far, speculation regarding this case is rampant since the police have been tight-lipped other than a specific plea for information about the white Hyundai Elantra. Now, online sleuths continue to raise questions about a student who interacted with two of the victims at a food truck and the roommates who slept through the killings. Online threats have police considering criminal charges against those crossing the line. Now, with an unsolved case, online speculation will continue to run wild. On TikTok, videos with the hashtag Idaho murders have almost 215 million views. A subreddit dedicated to the case has over 43,000 members who are apparently analyzing just about everything about the case and any new development. And a few days after the attack, video emerged of Madison Mogen and Kaylee Goncalves at a food truck just hours before they were killed. Armchair detectives immediately honed in on a hooded man that can be seen in the footage, publicizing his name and digging into his social media accounts. Police were flooded with questions about the man's alibi, but that individual has since been cleared by the police. So far, investigators have revealed they've collected about 113 pieces of physical evidence from the scene. That's the problem with internet detectives. They're working off incomplete information, according to police. In some cases, information crowdsourcing online has been useful. Just last year, amateur social media sleuths helped solve the Gabby Petito case. After weeks of mystery, YouTubers Jen and Kyle Bethune found video of a white van they caught on their camera during a trip to Wyoming's Grand Teton National Park. The van matched the description of the one Petito and Brian Laundrie were traveling in. They gave the footage to the FBI, and days later, authorities found Petito's body near where the van had been spotted in the footage. In another case that drew international attention, everyday internet sleuths helped bring convicted murderer Luca Magnotta to justice. The 2019 Netflix docuseries Don't F with Cats showed the power of amateur detectives in the Magnotta case. However, citizen detectives have made mistakes. For example, they misidentified 22-year-old Sunil Tripathi as a suspect in the Boston Marathon bombing. Tripathi's family, who had been looking for Sunil after his disappearance a month earlier, was inundated with phone calls and hateful messages. Tripathi was later found deceased. Authorities determined that he had taken his own life. But the line between internet sleuthing and unwarranted harassment is, well, it's thin. The law and prosecutors bind professional investigators, and they must prove their case in a court of law. And oftentimes, armchair detectives have no such obligation and are often, let's say, reckless in their rush to judgment. Online attention can also add to the noise, bind investigators tasked with sifting through information even all that more arduous. Now, as of Monday, detectives have received more than 2,645 email tips, 2,770 phone tips, and 1,084 digital media submissions related to the Idaho stabbings. Now, everyone has an opinion and wants to come out and say it. So what that does is it detracts from the public's ability to trust the information that is out there. That's according to the Moscow Police Department. We want to be the source. Now remember, ladies and gentlemen, I am a firm believer in the internet sleuthing community. I believe that they can come up with lots of information that the police neither have the time nor the resources to conduct. But remember, it has to be legal and competent evidence that's going to be used in a court of law to obtain a conviction. And you just can't say anything about anyone because today you think that they did it. I have had people call my office and actually want to talk about this case and other cases. And you know what they say? Well, it's because I just got this gut feeling. Gut feelings are not evidence, ladies and gentlemen. You have to have real concrete evidence to obtain an arrest warrant and ultimately a conviction, which is going to be able to stand up to the burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And remember, 99% of all these people are not public figures. And if you go accusing someone of committing a heinous crime and you're wrong, guess what? You could be sued for defamation. So the public can gather information, but it needs to go to the police if they actually want to help the investigation. Like many Americans, we got a dog during the pandemic. My quarantine dog, Miss Winnie the Bulldog. Now, Miss Winnie has grown accustomed to being around us all the time. When we were leaving the house, Winnie would have extreme anxiety, so we decided to look for natural products to help with her anxiety. We looked for the highest quality CBD treats, and we were not satisfied, and neither was Winnie. So we created a high-quality CBD product that absorbs faster and provides the required results faster. Baked in Colorado, CBD treats and beverage enhancers are made with nanotechnology. The nanotechnology makes the CBD extraction more pure, also allows for Baked in Colorado products to work faster. Baked in Colorado products can help reduce your pet's anxiety, ease joint pain, and help with your dog's skin problems. Go to our online store and see what Baked in Colorado product is best for your dog. When you order at bakedincolorado.com, enter code WINNIE and receive 15% off your first order. We have a 30-day money-back guarantee. If your dog does not experience the desired results in 30 days, return the product and we will refund your money. No questions asked. Let's go ahead and talk about Richard Allen and the Delphi murders. Well, there's information coming out that the murdered Delphi teenagers, Liberty German and Abigail Williams, were victims of a botched kidnapping plot hatched by members of a local child ring. Wasn't in the affidavit, so we're going to take this with a little bit of grain of salt. But, like I said, there's reports come just 2 weeks after the affidavit had been released and was redacted, very limited, that ultimately resulted in the arrest of Richard Allen. And he's obviously been charged with 2 counts of murder for the murders that allegedly took place 5 years ago regarding Libby and Abby, where the bodies were found in Delphi, Indiana, back on February 13th of 2017. So these reports that came out are information's coming about that the reason why the police were digging in Mr. Allen's backyard is because they were digging up the alleged family cat. And they were looking, the authorities were looking for hair that may prove to be a match for samples found on one of the victims, allegedly. Now, the Carroll County prosecutor, Nicholas McClellan, has openly stated that he believes Allen is not the only actor involved in this case. And while Allen has not been charged with kidnapping, the prosecutors have alleged he attempted a kidnapping. Well, apparently now sources, purport to be close to the investigation, have claimed that Mr. Allen was acting with at least 2 other men and was involved in this child sex ring. Now, as you may recall, Keegan Klein of Peru, Indiana, who's currently awaiting trial on several charges of possessing images of children, was cooperating with the state police and prosecutors, obviously in an attempt to reduce his own charges and make his own situation better. Now, the sources say that the girls met Keegan Klein online and he arranged to meet them near the bridge that day, but didn't go. Instead, he set them up to be kidnapped for this child ring. Now, during one of the several police interviews, Keegan Klein admitted to soliciting underage girls for pictures by catfishing them, obviously posing as a teenage girl by the name of Emily Ann or a hunky model actor by the name of Anthony Schatz. It was apparently the name Anthony Schatz that he communicated with Libby German. Now, Schatz was one of the last people to communicate with the girls before they took their last walk on the Delphi-Monon High Bridge Trail. Now, police interrogating Klein told him that they did not believe that he committed the murders, but was protecting the identity of whomever, in fact, did commit the murders. Well, now this alleged source has revealed that Klein has cut a deal with the prosecutors. And as you may recall, the search warrant for Allen's home and property were carried out based upon Keegan's alleged information. The Indiana State Police Carroll County spokesperson, a guy by the name of Sergeant Jeremy Piers, would neither confirm nor deny any of these details that were asked of him. Law enforcement has not released any of those details, anything beyond what is in the probable cause statement. Now, this source claims that Klein, from whose device police retrieved a slew of inappropriate photographs, knows Allen and that the men met when both lived in Peru, Indiana, roughly 40 miles northwest of Delphi, Indiana. This source is also claiming that both men knew Ron Logan, who police first pegged as a suspect in the killings after the girls' bodies were found on his property some 1,400 feet from his home. And an FBI search warrant served on Logan's home and property dated March 17th of 2017 revealed that on February 14th, the day after the killings, Mr. Logan asked a relative to provide him with a false alibi. Now, Logan had told a cousin to say that a friend had picked him up and taken him to a fish store between 2 and 2:30 p.m. and that he didn't return home until about 5:30 p.m. The last time the girls were known to be alive was about 2:13 p.m. when German made a brief cell phone recording of the now infamous bridge guy approaching and the words allegedly saying, "Guys, down the hill." Now, Logan's alibi was shown to be a lie, and text messages retrieved from his phone showed that he was out of his house and in the vicinity of the murders on the evening of February 13th. Now, the FBI affidavit that was released noted that Logan asked his relatives to lie for him the following morning before the crimes were even discovered. Logan died at the age of 84 on January 24th of 2022 and was never named as an official suspect. But these sources are now claiming that Logan, who had a history of violence against women, was also now involved. According to this source, investigators believe that the plan had been for Allen to kidnap the girls and bring them to Logan's home, where he and allegedly Klein would then do inappropriate things with them. The girls were apparently supposed to be kidnapped for the sex ring, but something went wrong and they were knifed and sexually assaulted and almost decapitated, according to this source. Logan and Klein apparently never met the girls. Police had been pretty tight-lipped about the girls' cause of death, saying only that there was a lot of blood at the scene. Now, the murder weapon was a knife, apparently, and that both girls bled out. This source has also revealed that the girls were killed near the river, information that has since been confirmed, but then moved and posed naked under a tree. While the FBI search warrant served on Logan's home also included law enforcement belief that the killer may have taken souvenirs. This source allegedly states that the souvenir was underwear and a cell phone that were taken from the scene. Now, the released probable cause affidavit also reveals that one of the girls could be heard saying the word gun. And according to this source, the killer was wearing a gun in his waistband. We've noted, and we've discussed this, that a Sig Sauer model P226, as well as several knives, were retrieved from Allen's home. In fact, Allen's wife, Kathy, confirmed that the weapons that were retrieved were in fact his. Now, forensic testing has been done of the unspent round found near the girls' bodies, and it showed that it had been cycled through Allen's gun, according to the affidavit. We've done videos about the reliability of that, but take it for what it's worth. Now, according to the probable cause affidavit, even though the bullet had never been fired, there were apparently significant signs and unique enough to say that it was in Allen's weapon. Now, the affidavit also states between October 14th of 2022 and October 19th of 2022, the Indiana State Police Laboratory performed an analysis of the Sig Sauer P226. The laboratory performed a physical examination and the classification of the firearm, function test, barrel, and overall length, measurement, test firing, ammunition, component, characterizations, microscopic comparison, and the NIBIN, the National Integrated Ballistic Information Network. The laboratory determined that the unspent round within 2 feet of the victim's two bodies had been cycled through Mr. Richard M. Allen's Sig Sauer model P226. Although the affidavit also states that it is very subjective when it comes to this type of analysis. And when asked about the firearm and the round by investigators to Mr. Allen, he could not explain how a bullet got from his gun would have been there. He denied ever having been on the property or having ever lent his gun to anyone. Now, Mr. Allen has obviously denied the allegations and any involvement whatsoever in the killing of Libby and Abby, though he admitted to police that he was at the trail on the day that the girls went missing. And additionally, there were several youngsters that had seen him, allegedly, near where the murders had taken place. Now, his lawyers say that he's simply the wrong guy, and they've dismissed the probable cause affidavit as flimsy, as have I. And I say that because, the source that's coming out with this information isn't the police. And my experience is normally the police put all the good information in the affidavit. And if there's bad information, like, we got it wrong, we accused somebody else before, that also has to go in the affidavit. That goes directly to probable cause. And like I said, the defense also says none of the case was flimsy, but they refer to the unspent bullet as the magic bullet, and that the science involved in making the magic bullet was junk science. And Mr. Allen's attorneys have filed for a change of venue, which would more than likely, in fact, be granted given the high likelihood of all the publicity. It'd be unlikely that they'd be able to obtain a jury pool in the county in which the case is currently charged. It more than likely will not take place in Carroll County. Now, there's also a motion for a bond hearing on February 17th, and a trial date is set for March 20th of 2023. Let's have a show of hands who thinks that it'll actually go to trial on March 20th of 2023. For the record, my hand did not go up. I think I saw a couple of them, but not many, so I wouldn't count on it. Given the fact that the court just recently approved the defense request for expert funds so that they can retain experts, my guess is it's going to take a little longer to be prepared, and they're not going to be ready by March 20th. But hey, stranger things have happened. We'll let you know. We'll see if this source of this information is correct. If it is in fact correct, it could be bad, and we'll just have to wait and see if old Mr. Keegan Kline is endorsed as a witness for the prosecution. Next, an example of TMM. That's right, too much mommy. Well, now the ex-crypto billionaire, Sam Bankman-Freed, now that he's in custody, well, the family has reportedly called the Bahamian prison where he is being held pending his extradition hearing and asked pretty please nice if he could get a vegan meal. Now, it's unknown at this time which of Mr. Bankman-Fried's specific family member phoned the jail, seeking to make sure that his dietary preferences were met, or whether, in fact, they were, in fact, granted. All right, little tip here. I've had this discussion many times over the years as I've represented people that have gone to prison, even jail. Okay, remember, county jail is where you're held. County jail is where you serve misdemeanors. Prison is where you go for felonies. Little tip here, big pointer. The people at the jail don't care if your mommy calls or your wife calls and says he's not getting his vegan meal. Don't care, okay? Now, eventually, if there are some legitimate dietary restrictions, then somebody would, in fact, be somewhat accommodated. But you have to remember, old SBF, he's in the Bahamas, okay? And when you go to prisons in other countries, it's frankly not as plush, if you could say our prisons are plush, as they are here in the United States. So let's just get for real here. I had a situation years ago, represented a guy who had been arrested in a Southeast Asian country for drug dealing. He was sentenced to death. Case was appealed, sentenced to death 3 times. Thought he was going to die. And there's some treaties that after 10 years in this foreign land, he would then get transferred back to the United States, where he would do some time on federal supervised release, aka parole, what have you. And what I learned during some of those conversations was rather interesting, is that, like I said, when you go to a jail in most countries, there's not a big priority in feeding people in jail. They may give them some general slop, so to speak, that they can eat. But for the most part, if you want the culinary appetizers that you would maybe really want to sustain yourself on that usually involved eating rats and other animals that have made their way into the prison. And your family is supposed to bring you food. So if your family doesn't bring you food, then guess what? You don't get the extra meals and you have to survive. I've also had clients that have told me about experiences in Mexican prisons, and they couldn't wait to get back to the United States, even if they knew they were potentially going to spend the rest of their life in prison, because, once again, if your family isn't going to bring you food, you get the slop that the authorities are going to give to you. And imagine in some other countries how low the priority it is to feed the people that are not able to follow the law. That's right, pretty low. So, old Sam Bankman-Fried, get used to it, buddy. You're in for the long haul. And of course, don't have your mommy call. Seriously, do not do it. You will be highlighted in so many ways and in not a good way. And the reality of it is, when you take a look at old Sam Bankman-Fried and you see his parents who, are very nice and, Harvard law professors, let's face it, the biggest inconvenience, challenge that old Sam Bankman-Fried has ever faced up until this point is probably he couldn't get good internet connection somewhere. So, this is going to be something that's going to challenge Sam Bankman-Fried. We're going to see if he's going to pull through it, maybe make himself a better man for it. Oh, and he also needs his ADD medicine because he's can't concentrate. Well, do I still feel sorry for him? Not really. No, I don't. Now, obviously, we'll give him the presumption of innocence, but somehow I think, his next hearing isn't until February for that extradition hearing. Somehow I think that he's going to realize that prison here in the United States is a heck of a lot better than it is in the Bahamas. Just saying. Now, for those of you who don't recall, the founder of the collapsed cryptocurrency exchange, old SBF, was charged this week with multiple financial crimes, but he at least has his own room in the maximum security section there of the Bahamian lockup, although it's been known to have rats and maggots even in the private areas. And like I said, his family called, wanted to make sure he gets his vegan meal. I don't think that's going to happen. But if it does, I don't know. I guess it's going to happen. And like I said, he was ordered to remain in custody because he has a hearing regarding extradition on February 8th. And this all stems from the allegations that he deceived FTX customers and investors to enrich himself and others. And he also can't receive visitors at the jail where he is right now because of COVID-19 restrictions at the jail. And it is apparently a jail that the warden himself said is not really fit for humanity. And there was a human rights report produced by the State Department last year that stated that inmates at the correctional facility in the Bahamas were forced to remove human waste by buckets and were confined to cramped, overcrowded cells overrun by vermin. Quite a different from the luxury compound where Mr. Bankman-Freed had been living up until his arrest on Monday. Now, like I said, lawyers for Bankman-Freed asked the judge to release him. The judge said no, because he's a danger to the community and a flight risk. Now, weird crypto guy, his parents, who have just both happened to be Stanford law professors, Joseph Bankman and Barbara Freed, hence the name for the Bankman-Freed hyphenated name, they were in court and they were able to at least give their son a hug before he went off to his new home, the Bahamian jail. And the legal team there signaled their intention to fight extradition to the United States, where obviously he faces all these federal wire fraud, money laundering charges, as well as campaign finance law violations, where he could face up to 115 years in prison, because it's alleged that he devised a scheme and artifice to defraud FTX customers and investors going back as far as 2019, the same year his company was founded. It's alleged that he illegally diverted this money to cover expenses, debts, and risky trades at the crypto hedge fund that he started back in 2017 Alameda research, and to make lavish real estate purchases and large political donations. Now, FTX had to file for bankruptcy on November 11th when it ran out of money after the cryptocurrency equivalent of a bank run took place. That's right. Everyone said, I want my money back. And they said, oh, we don't have our money back. No difference than any bank here in the United States or probably throughout the world. If everybody went down to grab their cash, it wouldn't happen. That's why you always need to keep a little cash for those little emergencies. Just remember that. But it obviously begs the question, where is Caroline Ellison and why is she not in custody? Because Sam Bankman-Fried's ex-girlfriend, Caroline Ellison, well, apparently she's still living it up in New York City. And Sam Bankman-Fried blames her for the crypto exchange imploding, and it's all her fault. Now, Miss Ellison was the CEO of Alameda, the crypto investment firm owned by Bankman-Fried. The prosecutor said they used that to funnel billions of dollars through a personal piggy bank for the disgraced SBF. Now, it's exactly unclear if she, too, is going to face charges, according to prosecutors. I can't imagine why she's not charged just yet. Her name appears throughout the charging documents multiple times, along with other members of SBF's little inner circle. Now, SBF installed Ellison as the CEO of the hedge fund back in October of 2021. Despite her limited professional trading experience, nearly nothing. She worked as an analyst for a short time. She's a math major, which Wall Street hires a lot of those. But when you hear her talk, Miss Ellison talk, once again, kind of like SBF, I would not trust my money with either one of those two. And, well, frankly, turned out to be correct, my gut. Because I remember seeing a video about SBF, and it was a guy that does a lot of Facebook videos. And like, oh, this guy's so great. He's going to save the world by giving away all of his money. Of course, that video has since been taken down. But I saw the guy, and I was just like, who is, like, really? No way. And it turned out it was a complete fraud. Now, FTX reportedly lent Alameda billions in clients' money without their knowledge or permission, which is wrong. That's right, you can't do that. Now, the crisis at FTX was triggered when customers rushed to withdraw their funds and the company didn't have the money. And like I said, all of their living situations are going to change drastically here because we know old SBF is in that Bahamian jail. Miss Ellison should soon be in a jail, which would be quite different than the $40 million penthouse that they were residing in on the main island there in the Bahamas. Now, the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York said more charges will be filed in the coming days and weeks, and he said, we are not done. He said unequivocally, he's warning that this week's announcements against charges against Bankman-Freed was simply the first step. Now, they charged him more than likely, and that indictment is going to be a placeholder because they wanted to get him back to the United States. And yes, I would agree, more charges are going to be forthcoming simply for the fact that everyone's probably still trying to figure out how bad it is. And even though the new CEO said this is the most absurd thing that he has ever seen, heck, they were using a general accounting software for running $1 billion hedge fund and trading company. So Miss Ellison, along with another guy by the name of Nishad Singh, who is one of FTX fired directors of engineering, is anticipated they may be charged as well, even though they haven't heard of what legal actions officially facing them. They're apparently lying low in the wake of bombshell charges that obviously hit everybody there at FTX here. And, it's all about getting that money back. So all those directors of FTX, that inner circle, guess what? They're coming for you. If you need representation, though, call me. Okay? It's going to be expensive, though. Remember, justice is expensive. Injustice costs a hell of a lot more. All right, next on the docket. Is the government just starting to pile on for Alex Murdaugh? I don't think so. All right, so Alex Murdaugh is currently in custody pending the double murder charges in the June 7th, 2021 deaths of his wife Maggie and son Paul on the family's 1,700-acre estate. He's pled not guilty to those charges and is scheduled to go to trial on January 23rd. As it turns out, Alex Murdaugh, who earned millions of dollars from his Hampton, South Carolina law practice over the last 9 years, well, apparently didn't pay all the taxes. At the same time, he stole millions from his firm and clients as well. Guess what? The state of South Carolina has indicted him on tax evasion. That's right. The South Carolina Attorney General Office announced today that Mr. Murdaugh was indicted by a state grand jury on 9 counts of willful attempt to evade or defeat a tax. Now, it is alleged that between 2011 and 2019, according to the 11-page indictment, that Mr. Murdaugh failed to report more than $6.9 million of income earned through illegal acts, causing him to owe the state taxable income that was unreported. The South Carolina's tax agency, the Department of Revenue, participated in the investigation of Mr. Murdaugh. Others who investigated were also the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division and the FBI. And let's not forget the United States Attorney's Office. So maybe when all this state stuff is wrapped up, he's going to get indicted by the feds as well. So as I noted, the indictment that came down today also reveals how much Mr. Murdaugh earned as a lawyer for each of the 9 years between 2011 and 2019. Now, listen to this because it makes you wonder, this guy was broke. He was robbing Peter to pay Paul. Makes you wonder, what the hell was he spending it on? So the indictment alleges that Mr. Murdaugh reported annual income as a lawyer from his former law firm, Peters, Murdaugh, Parker, Ellsroth, and Dietrich, and that began to drop as the years passed as he supplemented his income as a lawyer by alleged thefts he did not report on his tax forms. In 2011, he earned $2.3 million, then $5.2 million in 2012. By 2013, Murdaugh's annual pay dropped to $733,000, but went back up to $1 million and to $2 million in 2014 and 2015, respectively. So he earned $962,000 in 2016, then $270,000 in 2017, and earned $823,000 in 2018. In 2019, the final year, he earned $722,000. I mean, who could possibly get by on that kind of money? It's nearly impossible. Mr. Murdaugh, really? So in all of those 19 years, he earned $14 million and stole another $7 million more, according to the indictment. So the Attorney General says, hey, you know what? You owe the state of South Carolina $486,819 in unpaid taxes. Seems like a small price to pay. I mean, actually, that's a pretty good rate on $14 million. If I brought in $14 million and only had to pay $486,000 in taxes on it, sign me up. Anyway, Mr. Murdaugh, the hits just keep coming. So he's got the homicide case. Now he's got the tax evasion case. Plus, he's got all those other theft cases that he's going. Things are just not looking good for Mr. Murdaugh. And his current attorneys didn't say whether they're going to appear on this particular case. You know, they only got a paltry $600,000 for the double homicide case and the other matters. And as you'd have to tell any client, we don't give a volume discount. It actually gets more complicated the more cases you have. So arrangements are going to have to be made to come up with a new retainer for the new case if they would like him to represent them.